Hi there, welcome to another episode with FM Campbell. Today I'm going to be looking at building a team and basically what I do to start from the beginning and eventually build a team that's going to be hopefully successful. So first thing I do, immediately I look at the first team. Normally I know a lot of people like to have 3 goalkeepers. I tend to have 2 and then I normally have a youth prospect keeper in the reserves. Sometimes I do like to loan him out, but I do normally like to have a top goalkeeper, so I would have like a David De Gea and an Anders Lindegaard, but I'd probably try and find a better second choice keeper. So someone that can come in and can temporarily replace them, but they're not necessarily going to be complaining about becoming and not playing first team. And then I would usually have a youth-based sort of wonder kid goalkeeper I'd try to find who would be in the first team but available for the reserves. So he's in and training with the first team. And I do tend to try and get him loaned out and get him some game experience as well at lower levels, which is obviously key in youth. I then tend to have 2 right backs. So we'll start from the right hand side. I'd like to have 2 right backs. So again, I'm using Manchester United for the sake of the video. So I would probably look at this and think, well, I want 2 right backs. Fabio I think's a left back. So him and Evra on the left. I would have Raphael, and then I'd try and look for a younger sort of wonder kid right back that I can have come in behind Raphael, sort of a 16, 17, 18-year-old. Just so he's not complaining about not playing first team, but someone that can come in and gain experience from coming into the team, and kind of like be a full-time eventual replacement for Raphael. Same again on the left. I looked at 2 players. That's pretty much how I'd set up. Obviously, Evra's getting old for the sake of Man United, but he's still not a bad player. And Fabio is quite young, but he's not great. He's getting past the stages of, his physical stamina and strength I would look at, and I would be a little bit concerned. So I'd probably replace him with, again, a younger wonder kid that I can break through and eventually be my long-term replacement. Obviously, with these youth prospects as well, I will then eventually, as they get older, as the game develops and your season continues, you would then eventually invest in some more youth or some of your regens or some of your youth recruitment. So I'd probably get rid of both Evra and Fabio and get a full-time first team left back and a youngster. Looking at centre backs, I tend to have 4 centre backs. 2 main first team ones and 2 that can come into the team. Preferably the 2 that are substitutes, often a little bit younger. And then I often have a 5th choice centre back who maybe could be a wonder kid again. So I'd have 5 in total, but the 5th would be sort of in the first team but available for the reserves consistently. And I'd probably get him some loan time out as well. So for Manchester United's sake, they're set up quite well. Obviously Rio Ferdinand's quite old now, along with Vidic, but they still do perform in Football Manager. Rio's natural fitness isn't great, so he's probably going to be, well, we all know he's quite injury prone. And his stats are likely to start decreasing, so I would imagine in the near future he would go, especially on the wages that he's on. Same again with Vidic, I suppose, but he is a lot better than Rio Ferdinand. His natural fitness is still good, and I'd say he's got 2 or 3 years left in him, so I would probably keep him long term, and being captain as well, which is quite crucial in this FM. And then you have Smalling and Jones. I know Smalling can play right back, but he is naturally a centre back. So you can train them, plus they're English, which is great for your homegrown status. So for Smalling and Jones would be my second choice. And I would debate on Smalling, because Johnny Evans is rated on this. So I'll probably have Johnny Evans and Jones, and maybe keep Smalling as my 5th choice. Unless an offer comes in for him for quite a high amount, I would then go and look at a youth prospect. Because Johnny Evans is so good on the game, Johnny Evans and Vidic would probably end up being the partnership, with Ferdinand either retiring or leaving, and then I'd have Phil Jones and Smalling as my substitutes, and then a youth player. So that's probably how I'd set up with centre backs. Defensive midfielders. Man United have got 2. They're both really they're centre midfielders essentially. They're both naturally centre midfielders. I tend to have 2 defensive, 2 ball players, and 2 attacking. And the 2 defensive can normally play defensive midfield as well as centre midfield. The ball players are normally predominantly centre midfield, but they can either sometimes they can go into both. They can play in an attacking role or a defensive. And then I have 2 attacking who mainly play centre attacking midfield, but they can drop in and cover in that centre midfield role. Depending on what tactic you're doing, you can either do it with defensive midfielders or with attacking midfielders. So I like to have 2 defensive midfielders, so that's probably got the cover there already to perhaps invest in the future. But I mean, they're not. Carrick's 31, Fletcher's 29. They do have years left in them, but I'd say Carrick's probably starting to age now, so I'd be concerned about his physical stats. Obviously, Fellaini's there as well. He's one of the ball-playing ones I would have. I'm not a fan of Fellaini anyway. I am a United fan, but he is one of the ball players where he can play in both defensive midfield and attacking midfield, but he's predominantly a centre midfielder. Yeah, so personally I believe United, obviously they've centre midfield, they have quite big problems. I do know in the reserves they have Anderson and Cleverley, who Anderson I believe is going to Fiorentina. So we'll put these in the first team just for the sake of it at the moment. Let's go back. So that is the cover at the moment. Obviously I would probably get rid of Anderson. I'd probably sell him, especially at the value 11.5. You could probably get about 12-15 million for him. Cleverley, he is English and he has got potential. So I'd probably keep him as like a third choice. I would invest in a young defensive midfielder, maybe someone like Kondogbia, or something like that. A centre midfielder possibly, maybe like a Gundogan or a Gundogan or whatever you want to call him. And then a centre attacking, like a Hamzik. Obviously I wouldn't get all 3 of these at the same time because that's just not in the budget. But a Gundogan for a centre midfield would be great, that sort of player. Or a Thiago or a Fabregas, they're all very similar players. And then centre attacking would either be like a Kroos or a Hamzik. And then defensive I would go for, I mean for first team I'm a big fan of Arturo Vidal on this, and in real life. A Kondogbia for youth, and also there's a Pogba as well, that's one I forgot to mention, an ex-Man United player who could play in the middle. So it's 6 centre midfielders in altogether, and then maybe add 1 or 2 youth prospects or wonderkids in and around that. Also, but they'll be loaned out, things to gain first team experience. So moving on to the right wing, I tend to have 2. I play predominantly attacking right wingers and attacking left wingers, so they're in an advanced position. I tend to have 2 for the left and 2 for the right, and then 1 youth that can play both, or 1 youth for either side. So there's 3, essentially a maximum of 3 either side. We have the 2 first teams. I haven't actually seen if Nani. His mental isn't great, but he's not quite that rated, and he is worth 12 million on 90 grand a week, so he could probably go and be replaced. So that's something to think about. And also we have Valencia on the right, who's a good all-round player. He's not that great. It just shows you all the positions that Man United basically need to strengthen. So I'd have 2 right wingers, 2 left wingers that play in advanced positions. And then I have a wonder kid on the right, wonder kid on the left. It's all good saying this, but obviously you have to find these players. But then you've got your youth recruitment, you've got your regen days and things like that can help you out with that. So yeah, we've got Valencia and Nani on the right, and then we've got Ashley Young and that's it on the left, really. I mean, Giggs isn't really a left winger anymore. He would probably go throughout age. Januzaj you can train on the left. He is predominantly a centre attacking midfielder on this, but you can train him onto the left. And he could essentially be your left or right. So if you invested in someone else on the left as well, so you'd have the 3. And then Kagawa obviously can play there as well. Central attacking, obviously I've looked at, and we've got Kagawa. Rooney can drop into that role as well, and obviously you also have Giggs who can play there and cleverly for the cover. It also depends on who you chose to keep. So yes, that's predominantly 2 on each side with a youth on each side as well. And then up front, depending on how many players I play up front in my formation, I tend to have 1 up front with a second striker or a central attacking midfielder, which is what Rooney does in real life. As you can see, he can play in there, he's accomplished in that role behind the front man of someone like Van Persie. If I'm playing 2 up front regularly, I tend to have 4 and then a wonder kid. If I play 1 up front, I tend to have 3 and a wonder kid. It all depends on the formation being played, which is why it's quite tough for Kagawa in real life, because Manchester United do that with Van Persie with Rooney behind, and Kagawa is not played in his predominant position, which is in the middle. And then I like to have so at the minute there is 4 there. So if I was playing 2 up front, that's what I'd go for. But to help out, Danny Welbeck can play on the left. Plus he's English, which is always good. So I would probably sell Hernandez, in all honesty. I know he's great with goals and stuff, but for the value that he's at, his star rating is only 3-star. I would probably let him go, and I would keep Rooney and Van Persie, and then Welbeck, and then I'd try and find a wonder kid. So that's the first team. The reserves, or the under-21s, I tend to get rid of players that I don't feel are going to make me money, basically. There are players that I keep that I think would break into the first team. Obviously, Wilfred Zaha, he's still young and he's English, which is good. Nick Powell and Enriquez have good. Basically, these 3 here I would look to be keeping. The rest, I will probably loan out James Wilson down to Butner. I'd probably sell Butner anyway because he's close to his full potential. Any players at their full potential in the reserves, I would probably release. I would sell. And yeah, I would probably loan out as many players as I can and make as much money as I can, and just throughout the careers of each player, depending on how long their contracts are, if their values aren't going up, if there's no potential about it, I'll probably scrap it. And I basically fill the under-18s with wonder kids. Loan them out as much as possible, get them as much first team as possible. I would probably release sort of here up to here, because they're not on a lot of money, so I'd release them while I can. Actually, probably not that high, I'd probably go to here. And fill them with wonder kids, basically. So yeah, that's how I'd build my team. If you build it any different, put it in the comment section below, let me know what you think. Remember to check the Twitter channel, at FM Campbell. Follow us there for all the latest information. My name is Tom, and I'll see you in the next one.